It's, of course, a great thing to save for your future. But here's the question that almost nobody asks. At what point can you actually stop saving for retirement? That might sound a little strange coming from a financial planner, but the truth is, saving forever isn't always the smartest move. In fact, for many people in their 40s or 50s, continuing to save aggressively might actually cost them something bigger than money. Their time, their experiences, and even their peace of mind. Now, why do we feel this endless pressure to save? Well, historically, retirement was very simple. You worked at a company funded your pension, and you retired with a guaranteed paycheck for life. The company carried the burden. Fast forward to today, and pensions have mostly disappeared. They've been replaced by 401ks and IRAs, and the responsibility has shifted from the employer to the individual. Most people never got the financial education that is necessary to go with that financial responsibility. So, what did the system do? Well, it defaulted and relied on what Big Finance said, the simplest message: save as much as you can for as long as you can. And that advice sounds safe, and it can be an important message for a lot of people to hear. But if you ask people if they would agree to have more money and a bigger nest egg is better, most people say yes. But that ignores the time and the sacrifice that it takes to save that extra money. And it leaves out a lot of nuance. It also ignores the time value of money. It ignores how compounding works at different stages of your life, and ignores the reality that your assets and how you're invested may have different potentials, risks, and behave in different ways over time. The result is people that are achievers and more security driven, they may strive hard and save quite a bit to prepare for their 50s or early 60s, and they may already be financially secure but still working and saving like they're 28, because no one ever showed them when enough is enough. So for this video, you really need to understand two key principles. First is compound growth. And here's the simplest way to think about it. Imagine you're pushing a snowball down a hill. At first, it's tiny, and you have to push it every inch, and it's going to gather up a little bit because you're shoving it forward. That's like your 20s and 30s. Your savings and contributions are doing most of the work. But if you fast forward a couple decades, your snowball could be quite large. You're barely pushing it, and then it's gonna roll down the hill all on its own, picking up even more snow with every turn. That's what can happen in your 50s and your 60s. By then, your portfolio growth often dwarfs your contributions. You're no longer the main driver. Your money is going to work for itself. What we're aiming to explore today is how people can determine at what point they can step back and let that compounding of their portfolio do the heavy lifting for them and not rely on extra savings in order to get them from A to B and ready for retirement. The second principle we need to understand is the opportunity cost. Every dollar that you save for someday is a dollar that you're not using today for travel, family, hobbies, and experiences and moments that you might never get back. Saving is good, but at some point, saving too much could mean you're trading away the present moment. So let's bring it all back together. When you put these principles into motion, your picture may shift quite a bit. Early on, your saving is essential. Your dollars haven't had time to grow. But later on, if you've built a strong foundation, your portfolio may reach a critical point where you can begin coasting towards your retirement goals without needing to shovel in extra cash every year. And that's where the concept of a coast number comes in. Your coast number is the specific dollar amount of money that you need to have saved and invested today so that without adding another dollar of contributions, your portfolio would have a high probability to grow enough to fund your retirement goals by the time you are planning to retire. Think about it like this. It's the balance where you could, in theory, just take the hands off the wheel of the savings and let the compounding of your portfolio carry you the rest of the way towards your retirement goals. So here's a quick way to estimate what your coast number might be. Before I walk through this, I do want to say that if you want an accurate and personalized estimate, I do have a free tool that you can use. It's a link in the description, and all you have to do is fill out some numbers, and we will send you a completely free 5-minute mini review video breaking down if you're on track for retirement and what are some key ideas that you may want to consider going forward. But let's get back to the process. Here is the back of the envelope way to calculate roughly what your coast number is. First, let's figure out how much annual income you're going to need in retirement. Let's say $100,000. We're going to subtract fixed income sources from that, such as Social Security or pensions or real estate income. Then we're going to apply the 4%. This is a quick proxy to figure out how large your portfolio may need to be to cover that remaining gap of your income needs continually throughout your retirement. If you need $100,000 and you're getting $25,000 from Social Security, you're going to need $75,000 per year. We then take $75,000 and divide it by 4%. That gives us a number of around 1.875 million. Now you got to work backwards. You have to figure out if your investments can grow for another 10 or 15 years, how much does your portfolio need to be today to be on track to hit that $1.9 million number? So here's a simple illustration. If you're 50 today and you want to retire at 65, and that means your portfolio has 15 years to compound and grow. Assuming a 7% average growth rate, your money will double every 10 years. That means if you have around $940,000 today saved and invested, you're likely to coast to about 1.9 at 65, even without saving another dime, assuming that the returns play out over time. But here's a big caution. If you've watched my other videos, you probably know that I'm not a big fan of the 4%. It's only a rough guide, and it doesn't account for taxes, inflation, changes, market volatility, or different phases of retirement spending. And that's why when we build plans for clients, it's usually multi-phase projections. For example, modeling travel-heavy early years of retirement differently than the middle years of retirement, and maybe healthcare costs play a larger role at the end of retirement. But still, this is a quick way to get started, and the coast estimate can be eye-opening and give you an idea if you are in the ballpark or if you have some catching up to do. From there, maybe you make a more detailed projection if you want to employ the strategy. You might realize you're a lot closer to financial independence than you previously thought. So now that you know how to check whether or not you may be close to coasting, the real question is, does it actually make sense to stop saving? And there are a couple of key situations to look out for. First, of course, if you could retire today and you are financially independent, you don't need to keep on saving. But also, as we've described today, if you are on track and you're comfortable with the return assumptions that we're using to get you from A to B without saving, and you're on track with your coast numbers, it may make sense to stop saving and enjoy more of your life. Suppose you're 55 with 2 million and you need 2.5 million in 7 years. Compounding is likely to get you there. So you don't want to sacrifice too much today if you have meaningful experiences that you could say yes to. The next idea is that you may just want to consider if a more balanced path to retirement is sensible. Maybe dialing back your savings today and catching up on your savings later is more important in your situation, which only you can decide for yourself. Next, if your legacy isn't a priority for you, if you don't want to leave money behind for someone else to spend, then it may make sense to be very critical about how much you are saving and how much you're going to need to save for your retirement. Lastly, if the tax benefits aren't as compelling. It may not make sense to dial back savings completely, but if you're in a lower tax bracket right now, stuffing more into your pre-tax accounts may not provide the same advantage as it once did. So maybe rethinking that at the very least could be sensible. The real goal isn't just to build the biggest portfolio possible. The goal is alignment, using your money to create the life you want, both today and tomorrow. And doing the work to really create a plan around this can help make sure that you have a clearer vision as to how your finances can best map to your life. If you've saved endlessly without asking why, you could risk waking up one day with plenty of money and not enough memories. So, when should you stop saving? It's when your money is already enough to support the life that you want without sacrificing the life that you have. If you want to run your own estimates and see whether you might be closer than you think to your retirement goals, click the link in the description for our free mini planning tool. If you fill out the questionnaire, we will get back to you within a couple of days with a completely free 5-minute video breaking down your scenario. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to retire rich, it's to live well and to retire well.